If you think you need expensive equipment, the perfect branding, or a huge audience to launch a podcast that makes money, I'm going to stop you right there. Because I've helped dozens of women launch profitable podcasts, and the ones who succeed, they're the ones who actually focus on what moves the needle, and it's probably not what you think. I'm breaking down what actually moves the needle versus what is just wasting your time. Because where most people are getting stuck on the wrong things, you're going to know exactly where to focus your time and energy. Because most people spend weeks researching microphones, they're diving deep into the podcast hosting platform reviews. They're also obsessing over their cover art. I've seen this time and time again. They get so caught up in researching equipment and reading endless reviews that they almost forget the entire point, which is connecting to their podcast listeners to solve their problem. And the irony in this is that while you're obsessing and researching your competitors with basic equipment, they're already out there building their business and making sales. But here's what the podcasters who are making money actually do. They don't start with the perfect equipment. They start with a clear strategy and a basic setup to get the job done. Your listeners care way more about whether or not you can solve their problem than they do about your microphone quality. They're not listening for the perfect audio, and don't get me wrong, you should have at least decent quality audio, but they're genuinely listening to see if you have a solution to their problem and how you can help them. The podcasters who are actually making money on their show, they focused on their messaging first and upgraded their equipment later. Because think about it. Would you rather listen to somebody who has a high quality $500 microphone ramble on without purpose, without getting to the point, without solving the problem that you have? Or would you rather listen to somebody with a $30 microphone that's pretty decent audio quality, get to the point quick, and solve your problem? Number one, and this is the most important thing, you need a clear message. So let me introduce you to Ariel Blue. Ariel is my dream listener that I created for my own content, for my YouTube videos, for my podcast episodes, so that every single time I get behind the microphone, I know exactly who this video is for, who my podcast episode is for, and so that I get my message clear every single time. And so part of knowing your dream listener is knowing her name, giving her a business identity. Does she have kids? Where does she live? What does she like to do for fun? And so getting really clear on who she is and what her pain points are. And so Ariel is a virtual style coach, and she is a mom of 4, and she helps other women rediscover their personal style. Her clear message strategy is all about helping moms feel confident in their bodies after having kids. And so every single podcast episode that Ariel records, it all connects back to her core message. Because she's not talking about random mom topics or general lifestyle tips. Ariel is recording episodes like why you're avoiding full-length mirrors or how your clothes affect your confidence as a CEO. It is essentially creating content and podcast episodes that directly support what she sells. And so on Ariel's podcast, she sells virtual one-on-one consultations where she helps women declutter their closets and get rid of what they don't love, helps them find new outfits to help them feel good. She also does personalized style guides. So she does color matches and then selects custom outfits for her clients. And she sells that all on her podcast. And so that is a clear message strategy in action. Because here's the reality, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but we are not creating episodes for a hobby podcast. You want it to generate revenue for your business. But I promise you that that only happens when each and every single podcast episode has a purpose and connects back to the transformation that you provide, AKA the solution that you solve. Most podcasters launch with amazing equipment, but zero strategy. And then they wonder why they're recording episode after episode, but never getting clients. It's simply because they are creating content without intention. Your message strategy is what connects every single episode back to the problem that you solve. It builds connection and trust with your podcast listener and makes her think, she really knows what I'm going through and I want to work with her. Number 2, decent audio quality. Now, yes, you do need decent audio, but hear me when I say it does not have to be expensive. Your listeners just need to hear you without distraction, without background noise or any echoes. They just want to hear you clearly. That's it. When I first launched my podcast in 2022, I actually started with a $60 microphone that my husband bought me from Best Buy, and I used it for years. It was totally fine. It was decent. I literally never had any complaints about my audio. And as a podcast manager, I knew how to make my sound even more high quality, so it really was never an issue. And I didn't go out and spend hundreds of dollars. I literally used what I already had at home. And it did its job. And that's what actually mattered. So as long as your audience can understand you clearly, your audio should not get in the way of you moving forward with launching your podcast. Number 3, choose your tools and move forward. I'm talking about a podcast hosting platform that uploads your episodes without drama, editing software that you can use without needing an engineering degree. And trust me, I have all the recommendations on those. The goal is for you to create content and record podcast episodes to connect with your dream clients, not fighting with technology every single time you record. Keep it simple, keep it functional, and focus on what really matters: serving your audience with valuable content and solving their problem. And here's the thing, you can start simple and upgrade as you grow. I know of successful podcasters who literally started recording episodes on their phone, which I do not recommend, by the way, unless you have a great microphone. Now they record in a professional podcast studio, but they started, and that's what makes the difference. That is what sets you apart from everybody else. And so if choosing these tools is something that you're struggling with, don't worry, I got you. Here are a few of my very favorite top recommendations. For podcast hosting, I highly recommend Captivate. That is my number one recommendation to every single one of my clients, and that's what I use personally for my own podcast. I literally cannot say enough great things about Captivate. Their support is great. The dashboard looks great. The analytics part is amazing and in depth. And you can populate show notes. You can do dynamic ads. You can do mid-roll ads, pre-roll. And overall, it's just a very high quality platform for a very affordable price, in my personal opinion. So for recording and editing solo podcast episodes, I recommend Audacity or GarageBand. You only need one of these. Audacity is free if you have a PC or a Mac, and then GarageBand automatically comes with Macs. Both of those are free to use, free to download. And for recording solo or interviews, I recommend Descript or Riverside. Both of these softwares are incredible. I love them both. I personally am a huge Descript fan. I've been using it since the beginning of my podcast career, and Riverside is what a lot of my clients use, and I'm a huge fan of Riverside and their software as well. And what I really love about both of these platforms is they're text-based. So it's like editing a Word document, and it's the most incredible thing. I couldn't live without it. You can literally edit your podcast like a Word document, and the quality is so much better than what you can get by using Audacity or GarageBand. And both Descript and Riverside both record higher quality content than you can get from either Audacity or GarageBand. Comment below if you want me to do a deeper dive into any one of these tools. Let me know which one you want to know more about in the comments. And number 4, a consistent publishing schedule that you can maintain long term. When it comes to making money on your podcast, this is where I see most people set themselves up for failure. They either they think that they need to publish multiple times a week, or they need to publish a bunch of episodes, and then they get burnt out and then they don't record anymore. Or B, they're not publishing hardly at all, and then they wonder why they're not growing or why they're not making sales. But I will tell you that consistency beats frequency every single time. It is so much better to publish one high quality strategic episode every single week for a year than to publish daily or even twice weekly episodes for 2 months and then stop. Your dream listeners, they need to know when to expect your podcast episodes, because they're loyal and they will know that your episodes drop at this time on this day. I always like to think of it as your favorite TV show. They literally wait for your episodes to drop, and they need to trust that you'll show up. And when you build that trust through consistency, that's when they will start seeing you as the go-to expert in your field. So you want to pick a publishing schedule that works with your life and your business. If you're a busy mom like me, maybe that is once a week. My rule of thumb is that once a week is the sweet spot. But maybe for you, it's every other week. The key is picking something that you can commit to and that is sustainable for you without overwhelming yourself. Because an inconsistent podcast with amazing content is less valuable than a consistent podcast with good content. And if you want help staying organized and consistent with your podcast, that is exactly why I created the podcast flow system. It has everything you need to stay on track and in flow with your show. The podcast flow system is something that I created last year when I didn't want to record episodes early in the morning or late at night when my kids were at home during the summer out of school. And so I batch recorded a bunch of episodes. I didn't have to record at all that summer. And now it is what I use with every single one-on-one client so that we stay ahead, we can track every episode. And I've helped multiple clients use this exact flow system to prepare for maternity leave and keep their podcast going while they're cuddling their baby and not actively recording episodes. And so inside the podcast flow system, you will get access to the podcast calendar, the podcast library, and the podcast planner. And trust me when I say you will be obsessed. Click the link below this video to get your podcast flow system. So when you have these 4 things in place, a clear message, decent audio, and you choose tools and move forward, and you have a consistent schedule, you're not just launching a podcast. You're launching a system that works for you around the clock. But here's what most people miss. In my next video, I'm breaking down a simple framework that will help you map out exactly how your podcast will make money, even if you don't have a big audience. So go ahead and click that video right now, and I will see you over there.